is being recorded.
Oh, it's my John. Hi, John. I've missed you.
Have you?
Yeah,
You should get out more.
thank you. Have you guys met?
I don't think we have, John, have we?
Um,
I feel
no,
like I'm looking at the same person twice.
I have been. I've been on one of these before. So other than waving at you from the background, probably not though. How you doing?
Did I see you put an advert on Reddit recently? I'm sure I'd stumbled across it.
Yes.
And how you have you? How many times have you done that?
I've done it a couple of times in the past. I'm just giving it a bit of a try at the moment. I haven't even checked in to see how it's doing. But
How did it do before? Can you remember?
it was hit and miss, to be honest. So I had a couple of campaigns out running. One worked okay, and the other one didn't work at all. But yeah, the budgets are, I mean, it was for testing, and the budgets are quite low. So I'm hoping that this one will perform a little bit better because I think it's a bit more targeted. I'll keep you
that as well. Yeah, just before you joined, we were talking about Google ads and Bing ads and print ads. So we're all trying to find the best way of doing it.
Yeah. Well,
I was just saying to.
Sorry, go on.
No, you go.
I was going to say, obviously, kind of. I know Storm's been doing stuff around kind of Bing because they've been ranting about it, and kind of Google, which I helped set up. And I just figured, well, let me try Reddit and see how that goes, and we can all sort of share how things are working.
Yeah, I was just saying to Matt that my daily budget for Google is £4, and my daily budget for Bing is £1. Which is funny because Google says that you need to spend at least £56, and when you put in £1 on Bing, it comes up and says we recommend £2.
Of course it does. Are you trying to make an ad? Let me
Yeah.
help you.
It's the worst shit. Have we got anyone else, Matt?
We've got my note taker, Matt's note taker.
Nice.
So yeah, the numbers coming up.
Hi, Matt's note taker. How you doing? How you doing, mate? You all right?
Don't get him angry.
But yeah, look, I got new posters.
Ah, cool.
So far, no one's noticed.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's because I haven't seen you. I put them up on Monday night, being like, I'm going to see John on Tuesday, and he's going to love my new posters. And then you were like, oh, I've got kids. I can't spend
Yeah.
time with you.
Sorry about that. It was the last day before going back, so I've gone back this morning.
I thought everyone was back now.
No, not necessarily.
No, mine go back Friday.
Right.
But school holidays started on like the 1st of August, didn't they? Oh,
No, end of July, I think.
Yeah, a bit before that. Oh, it's 6 weeks.
fucking
A
hell.
long time ago.
What a dream.
Not for parents.
Yeah, no,
Well,
it's been a nightmare.
You should have used a condom. I don't know what more to tell you. They're cheap. Even Tesco does branded condoms now.
I didn't think you could get pregnant that way. What can I say?
There's something about me doesn't trust a Tesco branded condom.
Tesco would be all right. Aldi, you're probably treading a little bit.
Right, we've had another couple of attendees. So shall we crack on? I'm going to put you on mute, Matt, if that's all right.
Go right, should we crack on?
Oh, sorry, John. Yeah.
Well, hey everyone. Welcome to the Sales Clinic. We took the summer off, but we're back now and we're trying a new format, which is Zoom. I'm not sure if we'll keep the Zoom, to be fair, but we may. If you have questions about your sales and things over the summer, let us know. But the last time Matt and I talked, my boiler had exploded, and I was having cold showers. This time, Matt has broken ribs. What are we like? What are we like, Matt? What's happened to your ribs? Tell
I have the
everybody.
excuse of being an old man, so I don't know what your excuse was.
Being a gimp. I know you're off the painkillers today. How are you feeling?
I didn't sleep very well. I got to be honest, and it's pretty painful, but I do feel myself a bit more. The
Good.
last few days, I've been walking around in a bit of a daze. I had a
So
call with somebody, and I didn't really quite remember what I said in that call because they were quite strong, these painkillers. So
I hope you converted them.
I did.
Amazing. There we go. Get high all the time. That's the takeaway. So, one of the things that I think we should talk about today is how you get people through the phone, right? This is something that I've historically really struggled with. It's something that I know other people really struggle with as well. And it's something actually where I've tried to hire people to do this for me and have just been relentlessly screwed. I think everyone's probably heard the story of me hiring a telemarketing agency, paying them 1,800 quid in deposit, and then them never making a single call, and then having to threaten the debt collectors on them. Oh, we lost someone. Um, so tell me, I've sent out some things, I've got people warmed up, they've got direct mail, they've got packages, and all of that sort of thing. If I want to call them, what do I do next? What's the best way to get through that receptionist and into that CEO's pocket? Pocket? I was thinking mobile phones.
Um, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's a really good question, and there is a huge amount of resistance to doing cold calling. There always has been because we've all been recipients of bad cold calls. So I understand when people say they don't want to do it. I don't particularly like doing it, but it's still a necessary evil. It's still something that needs to be done, and data shows that it still is effective. I was speaking to somebody a few months ago, and they had set up their own cold calling agency, which is very old fashioned. But because of the rise of AI, they had data to show that cold calling was becoming more important again because everyone was ignoring LinkedIn or emails because it's just all AI spam, whereas cold calling has begun to gain traction again. So I think it's an important thing to do. Well, it's certainly an important thing to consider when you're going. You have a multi-channel approach of, say, LinkedIn, email, cold call, voicemail, whatever. So it's part of your outreach. What's the word? Not notebook, toolkit. So it's something that we should all be thinking about as salespeople or sellers or people who are trying to sell. But there are some important things to consider. One is that if you phone somebody's mobile, if you can get their mobile number, it probably doesn't make you look too great if you've managed to find it and you're calling somebody cold. So I would always be a bit careful about doing that. At worst, you're going to piss them off. At best, they're not going to pick up, and you're going to be able to leave a voicemail. So just be careful around that. Secondly, if you go through the old-fashioned way, which is through reception, which is probably the more professional way of doing it, then you have to realise that you have an added barrier in terms of the receptionist person or the virtual assistant or whatever the correct term is for nowadays. So you're going to have to get through that gatekeeper, um, and you need to consider that gatekeeper as part of the decision-making unit. So I think we've talked about this before, Storm, where on average in a B2B sale, there are on average between 8 and 12 people involved in that, from key decision makers, financial sign-off, technical users to influencers. Now, when there's a receptionist or an office manager or whatever the term might be, if you're cold calling, we now have to consider that person part of the decision-making unit, certainly as an influencer. So all the things we've talked about in the past about not pitching your product too early, focusing on a problem, that applies to this gatekeeper or potential gatekeeper as well. So when you ring them up, think of them as part of the decision-making unit. I need to do all the right things that I would do with a CEO or a head of sales, whatever. That I'm gonna need to do all the same things with this particular individual. And as we know, and as we talked about before, that if you are selling through a problem statement, you're not talking about your product, you're talking about a problem, you're providing insights. We know that that's more likely to hit. I think 80% of B2B buying decisions are made to specifically solve a problem. Now, there's some analysis by Gong that they've searched 90,000 cold emails, cold calls, and they've showed that those that open with a tailored problem statement are twice as likely to secure a meeting than those that doesn't. So that supports the concept of the receptionist, the gatekeeper, is actually part of that decision-making unit. When we get through to them, we don't want to say, "Can you put me through to Storm Mackay, please?" You want to then straight away talk about the problem you're trying to solve. So go straight into businesses like yours have problem X, Y, Z that manifests itself into ABC. Could I speak to Joe Blogs or whatever it might be? So treating them like part of the decision-making unit.
Can I butter up my
Yeah.
receptionist? So if a receptionist, so say that I'm going to call Deloitte, for example, right? And I'm going to go right in the front door. They've got a receptionist. Can I send that receptionist a box of cookies first that says, "Hey, I'm going to cold call you. Here are some wonderful cookies. Please put me through to your boss."
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I thought you were going to say absolutely not there.
No, I know that it's a bit of an old-fashioned trope. And when I started many years ago, I was told on several occasions to do those sorts of things. They can be your biggest champion, they can be your biggest blocker. So whatever you can do, however morally questionable it is, then you should do it. So I don't think there's any harm in doing it. I would just question how effective it would be in a modern corporate business world. I would imagine that these people are quite cute. Oh, look, somebody sent me a box of biscuits. It's from Storm. What does he think I am? Does he think you can get me around me that easily? So I don't think it could do any harm. I would just say tread carefully. But it's a good point in terms of they can be a champion. They can be on your side. And one of the things that we need from our contacts within that decision-making unit is to help us navigate the organization. So, hey, Mr. Reception person, I believe I need to speak to the head of marketing because she is somebody that is impacted by this problem. Well, then you can always use that receptionist to sort of validate that. Now, is that true? Or is there somebody else I'd need to speak to or whatever? So once you've got them on site, not maybe on site, but once you've demonstrated you've got value that you can bring to the company and that she's going to help you organize, she's going to help you navigate the organization because she understands that there's value that you can bring because you've described the problem that she understands in her world, then you can use her as a sort of like a champion to help you navigate the business. The other thing to think about is I think the number is 60% of prospects will say no 4 times before saying yes.
This is something I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so if the receptionist says, "Fuck you, fuck off," fair play to them, but can I call them back the next day and be like, "Hey, I'm the person that you told to fuck off. I just thought I'd give this another go." Would they appreciate that sort of chutzpah?
I would suspect if they'd actually used that language, that you should probably just draw a line in the sand and walk away. Ideally, what you should do in that situation is that's effectively an objection of some sort. And what we train salespeople to do is handle objections. So if she's saying, "F off, I don't want to speak to you," then really it's a case of, right, I understand you want me to F off, but can you confirm or not that this problem I've talked about is actually a problem? So trying to handle that as a standard objection, to be honest, if it's got that point where she's saying F off, you probably missed the boat and it's probably just best to move on. But yeah, as I was saying, 60% of prospects will say no 4 times before they say yes. And other data shows that I think it's between 8 touch points on average to engage with somebody cold. So that again sort of supports the idea of being persistent, not taking necessarily no for an answer, depending on how they say it, obviously, and going back and trying again, but each time making sure you provide some value. So what I teach my clients is you can provide an insight. So, did you know that your competitor had this problem and we solved it and this was the outcome? Could I speak to your, is that a problem you have in your organization? Can I speak to whoever? So that's sharing an insight, something about educating around the environment or the regulatory network. Did you know that there's a new law coming down that's going to impact X, Y, Z? Do you think that'll impact your organization? If so, can I speak to Joe Bloggs? Talking about your own stories or anecdotes. I was working with this other business and they had this problem and this was the impact and this is how we solved it and this was the outcome. Does that sound like something a problem you might have? If so, can you put me in contact with Joe Bloggs? So when you're trying, when they've said no, hopefully politely, then when you go back, and I would suggest maybe using different channels, so email as well as voicemail as well as cold calling, always try and bring some value. Because if you're just saying, can I speak to him? Can I speak to him? Can I speak to him or her? Then that's just going to be a complete turn off and they're not going to be particularly well disposed to helping you out.
And you've talked, I mean, just before you were saying about the phone numbers thing, the mobile phone thing specifically. Now I've done this, right? I've gone on Apollo, like I think everyone else has, and I've scraped people's mobile phone numbers and kind of thought, well, you put your mobile phone number on the internet, like it's fair game. Um, I've then called those people. We've then had a few people be like, "How the hell did you get my number?" And you sort of, and that those moments wish you were a sort of data privacy expert, and that's what you were selling people, you know. But do you think the sort of ethics of that are just too shady to get involved in? Do you think that the best thing is just find the corporate phone number and work your way up through the chain?
So I would, if their mobile number is on their LinkedIn profile, so when you click on contact information, if their phone number's there, I think it's fair game. I think if it's on the company website, again, I think that's fair game. I think if it's not on the company website, if it's not on the LinkedIn profile and they've put it somewhere and Apollo or another service has scraped it and pulled it through, I would be very careful about doing that because I think for certainly a majority or a significant minority, people would get annoyed. I know that I would. Maybe it's because I'm of that older generation. I don't know, but I would be, well, where did you get this number from? So straight away, you're on the back foot. Whereas if you're going through the front desk, although it adds that extra layer, it also gives that extra layer of credibility once you've got through. So effectively, you've got somebody on the inside saying, I'm going to connect you to whoever it might be. So it does give you that added layer of credibility. Maybe if what I was selling was really high value, low volume, and there was a limited number of targets or prospects in my territory, once I tried the front desk, I might then go, well, sod it. I'm going to try the mobile number because I've really got to try and get something out of this organization. So I've worked previous roles where what we were selling was really niche, high value, and there was probably 10 target customers in each market. So if 2 or 3 won't respond to you, then that's going to have a big impact. So you then sort of think outside the box. I don't know if we touched on this before. I think we have, Storm, but old-fashioned mail is something that I've used before, which has worked really well. I did this a few years, probably 10 years ago now, and I think I sent out 10 letters, and I think I got responses to about 5 or 6. So that was a really good hit rate.
Nice.
So that's something else you can. That's less intrusive as well.
So the numbers thing is interesting, right? About a year ago, I think I was looking for health insurance through the company, and I looked at Vitality, and I decided not to go with Vitality. And as it happens,
Yeah.
Vitality don't take no for an answer, right? Very much what you've just been describing. And those very enthusiastic fuckwits called me sort of most days, every day for a week. Yeah, I can see people nodding along, like I've also made this mistake. But my phone started screening them as spam before I even picked it up. So do you think like that's an issue that people are coming up against as well by not going to the front door as our phones are getting better at, I mean, I'm of the younger generation, we don't answer our phones anyway. But are you looking at, things coming up on your screen potentially saying spam if it's an unknown number, and then that obviously doesn't help your reputation, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And it's the same with emails. I often check my junk email inbox because sometimes there are credible emails in there that I do need that have been flagged as junk. So same way with cold calling. If you follow dubious practices, then someone somewhere is going to flag you as potentially junk. And if Vitality or a respected business came up on my phone as junk, then I would consider it junk, regardless of who it was. So it's counterproductive, really. That sort of high volume cold calling outbound campaign sort of stuff. I've never really been involved in it to that extent, and I do wonder what the stats are and the data is that supports it, because it seems to me very counterproductive. But they must be doing it for a reason.
Yeah, I
But
guess
yeah,
they
I mean,
break people down eventually, right?
yeah, or maybe if you phone somebody 10 times, you ultimately break them down, then they'll have a conversation with you. Maybe, I don't know, but it's certainly certainly something I wouldn't advise doing. And certainly, the sort of people that we work with, Storm, it's not necessarily high value, high volume. Let's
Yeah, I
just
was like, excuse you. I think my clients are very high value.
oh, okay, fair enough.
They pay
Um,
they pay my mortgage, they feed the dog, this is the value I need.
um, yeah, so I think when you're doing it targeted, and you're doing it in the right way, in terms of doing some research, finding the right people, following a process, being ready to handle objections, having a cadence plan after that. If that isn't successful, I think that's a perfectly valuable way of reaching out to people through cold calling. When it gets to that sort of spam level, then, well, I kind of think that spam, it's in my head, it's counterproductive.
So one of the things, and I know we're sort of, quickly running out of time, but I really want to get out of you is we are working on a research report at the moment, and the plan is to send that out. It's going to be, I like to think it's going to be quite high value, right? So we'll send it out to a bunch of companies, and then the plan will be to follow up with them. When we talk about direct mail, which you and I have talked about a lot, I'm a really big fan of. If I've sent something out to someone, do you think it's a good shout to then call them later and say, "Hey, I'm the one that sent you that report or those cookies, that we mentioned earlier?" And I've heard of an approach where people just don't mention it at all. Which side of that do you fall on? Do you think it's okay to remind them that you've, you know, carpet bombed them with mail, or do you think just hope that they remember you?
No, I would always encourage people to follow up in that way. So you sent something out, it's presumably of value. It's not, spam, buy 10 pizzas, get an extra pizza free. There's some value in what you're sending out. Um, Naturally, only a certain percentage of people will open that anyway, not because necessarily the quality of what's in there, but just generally they don't. Of those that do, if you phone up and you say, "Hi, I sent you that white paper earlier, just wanted to see what you thought of it," or whatever it might be, then I think that's the best way of doing it. One of the things that, when I talk about cold calling as part of your sort of action plan of demand generation, is to do very much that, is to send an email and then maybe an hour later leave a voicemail saying, "Yeah, I've just sent you an email, blah blah blah," or doing the opposite, leaving a voicemail and sending an email after and say, "I've just left a voicemail on your phone, blah blah blah. This is what I was talking about." So I think having that coordinated approach, I think, is really important. Yeah.
I would be remiss, I feel like, to not talk about how we can warm people up. I've just done this, which I'm very happy with, by the way, some full page ads in the local
Oh yeah,
paper.
yeah.
They've also been out of home as well, across key places. So one of the things that we've talked about before is that kind of regional selling, right? So not trying to reach every person. Big believer of that myself. Obviously based in Glasgow, do a lot of stuff around Glasgow, right? Try to get famous in Glasgow. Um, how much from your perspective, like when we focus on the really long-term brand building, we know that things like these ads in the paper won't convert, but we know that the more people see the ad and the more people see the company name, they'll be familiar with it. how much does that help when I'm trying to get through to someone on the phone? If I say, hey, it's Storm from Soba, and they go, oh, I've seen your ad in the paper, I've seen your ad on YouTube, I've seen your ad in the subway. Um, you know, I mean, they might look at the ads and think they're shit, right? The answer might be, oh God, I've seen your ads and they're horrendous. But how much does that sort of help people anyway to have that familiarity when you're calling them?
Yeah, well, talking from a sales perspective, it was always quite disheartening when you had to explain to a sizable target customer prospect who you were and what you did. So I think anything that does have that brand awareness, that does gives you, they know who they're speaking to when you're reaching out to them. I think that has huge amount of value. Now I think we have talked about this before, that whole polarisation thing. Is it valuable if they think what you did was terrible? Is it valuable what they thought you did was brilliant? Well, obviously, if they thought what you did was brilliant, great. If what you've done they think is terrible, I don't know. I imagine that there would be some value. Again, depending on what it was and why they thought it was terrible. If it was like your play on words and some of the stuff you did, I'd imagine
Yeah.
they'd go, oh, hated it, but this is why. And it would lead into a good conversation. Whereas maybe if it was something that a software provider had done and it was in the news and it was bad or something like that, then that would be counterproductive. But I think, yeah, what you're talking about, I think that would always bring value. And as I said, from a salesperson's perspective, if I'm going and I'm meeting somebody and they straight away know who I am, what my brand is, what my messaging is like, for good or for ill, I think that would be very valuable.
I mean, not everyone can like you all of the time, right? And I think this is one of the things that
Well,
we
au
could
contraire,
debate.
Storm, au contraire.
See, this is one of the things I think we could debate until the cows come home. But I think if we can actively put off as much, 80, 90% of the market, then we can really dominate the 10%. And for us at Sober, that 10% is still quite a big market. Um,
Yeah, that's
we're
a
not
really
trying to
good
be
point. Yeah.
Coca-Cola, right? But then not everyone likes Coca-Cola. That's not true. Not everyone likes
That
Pepsi.
how
Everyone likes Coke.
how does that feed into then your recent ad campaigns that you've been doing on the Glasgow Herald? How have you followed that process?
Of trying to put people off.
Oh yeah, just yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean 100%. So, I mean the feedback that I've got from these ads has been mixed. It's mostly been very vocal on LinkedIn. There's been a lot of people who just haven't got it or didn't like it, and they've been happy enough to let me know. And I've become convinced that LinkedIn is the place where creativity goes to die. But being able to divide that room, we're very self-selecting. We want to be remembered. We want to be Marmite. If people are having strong reactions to the brand, it means that they're remembering the brand.
yeah,
And
sure.
for building brand salience and for playing that sort of ultra long game, I want the company to still be here in 30 years, 50 years even. People need to have a strong feeling about it. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
that's my final words of wisdom because I'm watching the countdown clock. Thank you everyone for joining us. We hope that this has been valuable. Please tell a friend, tell your mum, and pet a dog today. It will make the dog happy and it will make you happy too. We'll be back in 2 weeks.
Well, thanks, Don. Appreciate it, mate.
The record